Hello and welcome to my session at QuickBooks Connect, which is about making tax digital for VAT. I'm Rebecca Pennyworth, and let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, and I've been teaching accountants and business people about tax for over 35 years. And I sometimes even teach HMRC and HM Treasury things about tax that they perhaps hadn't realised. I've got my own accountancy practice in Gloucestershire, and I specialise in small and very small businesses. I received an MBE from Her Majesty the Queen, and I actually got to meet the Queen in person in 2012 for my contribution to the tax profession. So that's enough about me. What about this session? So let me tell you a little bit about what I'm going to cover in the next half an hour. I'm going to talk about making tax digital, or MTD, for VAT, and I'm going to tell you who's got to join, when you've got to join, what you need to do, how you can get help from QuickBooks with the things that you need to do, and then we'll have a questions session. Now, a couple of little admin points. One is that there is a download facility so that you can download the slide deck. And then on questions, if you pop your questions in as they come to you, we'll save them up and then we'll deal with them at the end of the session. So do feel free to use the Q&A box to ask any questions, and then I'll answer them all together rather than sort of breaking the flow as I'm going through. Okay, then let's dive in. So who's got to join MTD? Well, all VAT registered businesses will come within MTD this year. There are a lot of businesses already in MTD, but any remaining businesses which are registered for VAT have to join this year. So if you are registered for VAT now and you're not in MTD, you'll come in on or after the 1st of April 2022. I'll explain in a minute a little bit more about the dates. If you're not registered for VAT at the moment, but you register at any time in the future, you will come into MTD from the date that you register. And actually logging on to HMRC and registering for VAT will also sign you up for MTD straight away. There is an exemption, and anyone who is digitally excluded is able to apply to HMRC for digital exclusion status, and HMRC may or may not agree. But that's going to be the minority of businesses. There are various reasons that you might be digitally excluded. One of those is that you don't really have access to the internet around the geography of where your business is. So it's not so much you haven't got the internet because you haven't actually paid for it. I assume you have, because you're listening to me here by the magic of the internet. But it's more that maybe the signal is very poor and you have to go elsewhere to be able to get access. Okay, so that's who's got to come in. Now, when? Well, I've given you a little bit of a clue to that, but it's a tiny bit more complicated. So when do you have to join MTD? You'll join MTD for your first VAT accounting period, starting on or after the 1st of April 2022. So it depends what VAT periods you're doing. Now, if you're doing monthly periods, then you'll come in from April, but most people do quarterly returns. So if your return period ends on the 31st of March, that's the last return under the old scheme, and you'll then come into MTD from the 1st of April. If your VAT quarters end in April, then you'll come in from the 1st of May, or if they end in May, then you'll come in from the 1st of June. So it depends on what HMRC calls your stagger date, which quarters you do VAT returns for, and it's the first quarter on or after the 1st of April 22. If you're under the annual accounting scheme, then you'll just do one return a year. So you will come in for the first year, whenever your year ends, for your first year starting on or after the 1st of April 2022. So it's not far away now, folks. Let's get ourselves fully prepared for what we need to do. So what is it that you will have to do once MTD starts? Well, I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail here, but there are 3 headlines for you. The first is that you must enroll for MTD. You have to actually sign up to say, okay, I'm coming in now. Okay, so that's one formal step. The next thing you have to do is keep digital records on functional compatible software. And the third thing is to submit your returns direct from software. No more logging on to HMRC and typing figures in. They must come automatically direct from some software. So let's take each of these in turn and explain how you go about it. So you need to enroll for MTD, and there are 2 steps to this if you're using QuickBooks. So the first thing you need to do is to sign up with HMRC for MTD. Takes about 2 or 3 days for it to work its way through their systems, but only takes a minute or 2 to do. What you need to do is sign into your business tax account. So use your HMRC log-on, sign in, and look for VAT. You'll find there may well be more than VAT on your business tax account. You might have payroll or you might have corporation tax. Go into the VAT bit of it, look for the link to be able to sign up to Making Tax Digital. Now, you've probably received a letter already from HMRC about this. If you haven't, it will arrive very shortly because they are writing to all of the businesses coming in to tell them what they need to do. Now, so once you've done that, very easy, just clicking a box and entering something. Then once you've done that, it takes, as I say, a couple of days for it to wend its way through HMRC's computers. And then you can go into QuickBooks and turn on MTD. So this is the 2-step bit. You need to enroll with HMRC and then you need to turn it on in QuickBooks. Go into your VAT Centre in QuickBooks. And while you're in there, you should be able to find how to turn on Making Tax Digital. And then what that will do is it will link back to HMRC and double check that you have already been enrolled. And then that will actually action. So it's just a case of 1 click and then waiting while it does a little bit of a to and fro. And then you'll be all ready and good to go. Now, while you're on the HMRC site, here's something that you might decide you want to do. It is really convenient to pay your VAT by direct debit. And in fact, if you pay by direct debit, you get an extra 3 days to pay. So your VAT return is due by the 7th of the month, whichever month it is. And if you pay by direct debit, then 3 working days later is when they collect the money. So you can set your direct debit up when you're on the HMRC pages. You'll need to input your bank details. You'll need, obviously, to be the signatory on the bank. But you can sort that out and it avoids you forgetting to pay. When the return goes in, you'll get an email from HMRC saying, OK, we're going to take this much money on this date. And then you can forget all about paying and just get on with your life, really. Okay, so now we're enrolled. What do we need to do next? We need to keep digital records. There are 3 categories of digital record that you have to keep in order to comply with MTD. This is actually set out in the law. So we have designatory data. I'm going to go through each of these. The supplies you make or your sales, and the supplies you receive, in other words, your purchases and your expenses that you want to reclaim VAT on. So for each of those, here's what you need to keep. You'll need a digital record of your business name, the address of your main place of business, your VAT number, and any VAT accounting schemes that you use, such as cash accounting, annual accounting, and things like that. Now, all of that is in your QuickBooks VAT Centre. When you set up VAT for the first time, you actually recorded all of that. So provided you're using QuickBooks, you don't even need to think about that aspect of your designatory data. So moving on, next, our supplies that we make, our sales, the things that we charge our customers VAT on, and we need to pay that VAT over to HMRC. So there are 3 bits of data you need to record. You need the date of the supply, which in the VAT world is called the tax point. You need the value of the supply before VAT, and you need the rate of VAT applying to the supply. Now, not everyone who uses QuickBooks actually invoices through QuickBooks. You may be a retailer and actually using a till. You might be selling through an online platform and your sales are recorded there. So let's start with people who raise their invoices in QuickBooks. Everything you need to meet the regulations is already recorded and more. You know, you'll have customer name and all sorts of things like that. Actually, you don't have to have those in the digital records under the Making Tax Digital rules, but you will. You'll have everything you need. If you raise invoices in QuickBooks, you can forget about this side of it. Now let's turn to other businesses. There are other businesses that might use a business-facing software. So, for example, a vet. Vets will normally use some specialised vet software to run their practice. And what that does is it runs the diaries of the veterinary surgeons. It enables the admin and the nurses to chase up customers to bring Fluffy in for an injection or something like that, and actually issue invoices and record payment. Now that's done for some businesses in specialised software written specifically for your sector. Another very common one is farms that use specific farm software. Now, in that case, you're going to submit your VAT returns through QuickBooks. You need a way to get the information from your special software over into QuickBooks. And that's where we get something called digital links. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You might be using SumUp or Zettle or something like that to take payments. And those, of course, you can link via apps to QuickBooks. So lots and lots of apps that you may use to take payment as a retailer will link to QuickBooks. But as a retailer, so for my pubs in my client base, what I get them to do is just when they cash up, they keep their daily totals and they then key those into QuickBooks. In fact, we key them into QuickBooks because they get a bit confused. So with a till, you can connect your till into QuickBooks. There are some tills that are hugely clever, but you don't have to. You can just use a manual cash up process when you balance your till every day and record that on paper and then type that into QuickBooks, and QuickBooks then becomes that digital record. Okay, so you need to sort of have a little bit of a think about that. If you've got an accountant, they may be able to help with you with, there are some situations where you might have to do what's called an upload, and you may well need some help actually getting that set up for the first time. Okay, let's go on to purchases and expenses, and then I'm going to talk about digital links in a bit more detail. So for each purchase that you make, each invoice that you receive from a supplier, you need to record the date, the value of the supply, and the amount of VAT that you're going to recover. So that's relatively easy, but it does depend if you're using QuickBooks. It depends how you actually deal with the payments you make, with the purchases that you make. Lots of people use a bank record, either by uploading a spreadsheet, or for my clients, I get them to connect their bank directly to QuickBooks so that it all flows in every day without us needing to worry. So if you're using your bank to create your purchase transactions, you've got a little bit of a problem sometimes. Because if you make a payment of, let's say, 3 or 4 invoices together, technically that has to be several lines of data. So using the bank can mean that you're actually recording the data as one chunk rather than for each purchase invoice. So you'll have to have a think about how you go through that. Now, again, what I do with my clients is we upload by photo and uploading to QuickBooks. We upload all of the receipts and then we match the bank against the receipts. And that's fairly easy. We use the functionality within QuickBooks to do the matching, and that means that each invoice is actually recorded separately. Again, if you've got an accountant, they may be able to advise you what's the best way to go about this. You need to, we've got a little while, but you need to start thinking about how you might have to change your record keeping in order to comply with the new requirements. Now, digital links. So what digital links means is that once you've got your digital record of your transaction, whether that's in QuickBooks or whether that's in VAT software or whether that's on a till because you're going to join your till to QuickBooks, once you've got that digital record, you mustn't type the totals into QuickBooks. You must do it as an upload or as a digital transfer. Now, the idea here is that cuts down on mistakes when you rekey things. So that's why HMRC have put that in. Now, there's a big section in their guidance note on MTD. On section 8 of the MTD VAT notice, you'll find that there are lots of diagrams of different systems and explanations of what you need to do. Again, if you've got an accountant or a bookkeeper, they'll be able to help you with this. They may even be doing it for you. But if you're only using QuickBooks and you have let's say you've got a till and you're keying in your daily till totals, you don't need to worry about digital links because it's all within one bit of software. It's only where you're using other bits of software and you need to figure out how to get information from over there, as it were, over into here in order to do your VAT return. So you might need to get a bit of help with that, and there's plenty of help around. Okay, so now you've actually done your digital records. Now you're going to prepare the return and submit it. So you'll need your totals of all the supplies you've made and the VAT you've charged and so on and so forth. QuickBooks has done all that. You don't need to add it up. That's all done. You might have to make an adjustment to arrive at the correct figures. Now, examples of businesses that might need to make an adjustment include anyone selling under the margin scheme, so a second-hand car dealer, or someone dealing in antiques or collectibles. You may make supplies under what's called TOMS, the Tour Operators Margin Scheme, or you might be partially exempt. That means some of your supplies are not liable to VAT at all. So if you need to make any adjustments, and these are things that you've been doing forever on your VAT returns, this is just how you do it under Making Tax Digital, then the screen when you go to prepare the VAT return will allow you to make those adjustments there. So just bear in mind, you're carrying on doing what you have been doing. You're not doing anything different. It's just the way that you submit the return that changes. You must submit the return from QuickBooks. And when you go in to submit, it will ask you to tick a statement to say, I promise this is all true. And then you can click submit. And if you haven't got a lot to do, you can sit and watch the little dots going backwards and forwards saying we're submitting to HMRC. If you don't, that's fine. You will get an email from QuickBooks to say your return's gone in and it's been accepted. So you'll know that your return has actually been filed. Okay, so I've mentioned QuickBooks a lot. Let's just talk about what it's going to do to help you with all of that. So if you use QuickBooks to prepare your invoices, your sales invoices, everything's done already and you don't have to worry about digital links or anything else. If you invoice through other software, you'll have to bring that data in using digital links. For retailers, you can simply key in your daily totals when you do your Zeds and cash up at night. You don't have to key in every day. You can actually save them up and do it once a week. But lots of retailers will total up a week and put a week in. Can't do that anymore. Under MTD, it's got to be daily figures. For purchases, you might want to process your purchase invoices into QuickBooks by keying them in. rather than just taking the payments from the bank. But you could capture them digitally, which means just taking a photo of them, uploading them into QuickBooks, and that will be easier. And that's what I've trained all of my clients to do. That's what we have. And we have a little slogan in my business that I tell my clients: no photo, no claim. So they know that when they've got a bit of paper and they want to claim some VAT on it, they've got to take a picture of it and upload it. And then we deal with it in the back end. So that's really that end of it, the record keeping. In terms of the return, QuickBooks will prepare the return for you. You've been doing VAT, you're all registered for VAT. If you're listening to this, I would imagine you're used to actually going into the VAT centre and pulling up your VAT return. Now, this time you are not actually taking those figures, printing it out maybe, and keying that into HMRC. That will go. That screen where you can log on and type the figures in, which you've been doing for now, that will actually not exist anymore, because the return must go in directly from the software. So when you're ready, click to submit and then off you go. So in summary, what are the key takeaways from my session? Well, in order to comply with MTD, you'll need digital records. There are 3 categories: your standing data, your sales, and your purchases. You will need digital links if you prepare invoices outside of QuickBooks, but if you're using QuickBooks, you don't need to worry about digital links. And you need to enrol for Making Tax Digital. Now, you can do that straight away when you get back to the office or when you turn off this session. Don't forget, it's HMRC first. That's called enrol, and then turn it on in QuickBooks. And if you're using QuickBooks, you'll be absolutely fine. QuickBooks is going to do all the hard work for you. You just rest easy. Things will be fairly straightforward, and good luck with it.